doing? Santa's coming. It's almost here. 10 centimeters of snow overnight. We're gonna get cozy. We're gonna be warm in here. It's gonna be all right. My name is Brett Bell, and I'm a high school music teacher here in Saskatoon. And I'm very proud to present to you the first annual Divas of Caswell concert. Thank you very much for being a part of a two-night sellout event. Where we've sold we're anticipating having a good time, but we weren't anticipating it being like a rapid sellout like this, so it's just a pleasure to present that sort of thing. I wanted to tell you a little bit about what we're actually doing here tonight from a musical perspective and from a sort of like a, for lack of a better word, social justice perspective. Wilma Grunin and I met about 2.5 years ago at a wake for the late great Bill Watson, who was a fantastic drummer in Saskatoon and sort of musical entrepreneur. He was the first drummer that I saw live in my life that I can remember, really. At the old basement down on 3rd Avenue at the American Pavilion. You guys remember that American Pavilion from Folk Fest? My parents took me to see, I can't remember what band it was, but I remember it was Bill Watson because he had the hat, he was wearing a lei for some reason, he was just a character, a great drummer. Anyway, he passed away, and the Jazz Society hosted an event where they gathered donations towards Bill's estate to the effect of about, I think it was around $15,000, and it was just sort of covered the costs of his end-of-life care, and his will stated that he was going to donate everything that he owned back to the Saskatoon Jazz Society. So that event turned into an annual fundraiser for the Saskatoon Jazz Society. My eyes were kind of open, thinking like, wow, you can do something beyond sort of like touring, and selling tickets and selling records, and sort of like doing commerce with art, and use it for sort of a greater social good. And that organization, of course, presents live local music for everybody for no profit. So I was thinking like, wow, we can really do this. Anyway, so I met Wilma at this thing, and we decided in the coming months that we should write some tunes together, because we both got some ideas, and thought it would be a good idea to record these things and then put them out on the road. And we realized that we don't want to do either of those things, because one, folks aren't really buying music anymore. It's sort of for free everywhere, except for you guys who are welcome to buy CDs downstairs. I'm not sure if that works or not. We applied for some grants to see if we could do this, and we said, well, we don't want to tour, and we want to record, so how are you planning on marketing on this? So they said, that doesn't work, we're not giving you a grant. So well, why don't we have a concert, sell a bunch of tickets, and then use the surplus profits to put in charity's pocket that we care about. And that's what this came out of. So over the course of about 1.5 years, and us meeting every Monday night for about 3 hours, I would say a combined effort of about 600, 700 man hours, we managed to come up with about 8 original tunes, which we'd like to showcase for you here tonight in the first set. And we're going to take a short break so that you can bid on some silent auction items and refresh your drinks downstairs. And then we'll come back upstairs and then have the Divas of Caswell proper concert. So essentially you're looking at 2 sets here with a short break in between where you can explore downstairs. Now, the benefactor charity in question tonight is the Prairie Hospice Society, which I'll invite a representative from them to talk a little bit later. But for now, we're just really happy to present these tunes to you. I also wanted to mention that we Will and I had an agreement that whatever charity work we do, that we don't ask any of the musicians to work for free. That's an issue that's near and dear to my heart. Is I've poured a lot of work and education into getting to where I am, and when folks ask me to come up and sort of donate my services because I like what I do and therefore it's worth less, it's a bit of an issue to me, because a plumber doesn't do that, and no other profession do that. So we're not asking any of these musicians to work for. They may or may not be choosing to donate their earnings back, but the Prairie Hospice Society is covering all of our expenses, human and otherwise. Last thing before we get started, most sort of charitable exercises, if I'm not a statistician, but are about a 50-50 split between expenses and revenues. And we're sitting at about 80-20, 70-30, 70% going directly to the Prairie Hospice Society and 30% going to... Anyway, so this first show will be pretty short. This is all original stuff from Wilma, or Wilma and I, and then we'll bring out the Divas of Caswell proper. But anyway, without further ado, thank you for being here, Wilma Curtin.
Some you won't. Sometimes love is difficult to own, but it's sweet. I don't know when love gets happy. Didn't say no. I see you. over here. It's all right, Saul? Yeah? Okay, good. Don't want to mess with the sound or anything. I live on a street where there are a lot of pedestrians. I live in Caswell, yes, of course. Watch a lot of people walk by my really, I think, beautiful street full of the old trees and last fall, such a gorgeous fall. And I'm just watching all these people Look up! So I thought, if Mother Earth were in a relationship with us, she'd be really ticked right now because we're kind of like taking her for granted. So this is my breakup song between us and the Earth. Right?
She's better off left all alone, and she is in hiding, and she'll celebrate once you are gone. That's why she waits for your demise. You might close your screen and lift your eyes, and you see. All the leaves are yellow and red, and the leaves are flying. Well, she's such a beauty, this earth, and you can fall in love with her without even trying. Big time, you ruined your own real home, and you hid behind lies and excuses. But she bides her time 'cause she knows that along will come your demise, and you close your screen and lift your eyes, and you she's such a beauty, this earth. All the leaves are yellow and red, and the leaves are flying. She's such a beauty, this earth, and you can fall in love with her without are not pretty, they're hard. They are weapons of mass destruction. This poetry is fine for the bard. Power and reconstruction is what we need now. Is what we need now. Is what we need now.
people with a lot of opinions about a lot of things. I'm not really sure they know exactly what they're talking about, but boy, are they righteous. Yeah. Not really getting us anywhere. The song about all the righteous ones. Well, you can stay if you're able. You're on the same page. We're invited to the table. You're a righteous one. Yeah, a righteous one. Come on and take my hand, 'cause we agree. There's room for you and there's room for me, 'cause we're the righteous ones. Yeah, the righteous ones. Well, I'm the queen of Bethel, the princess of Gale. I'll turn your doubts into a Baptist stand. I've got nothing up my sleeve, no, just a whole lot of answers. All you gotta do is believe. Ooh, just gotta believe. And you can stay if you're able. We're on the same page. Invited to the table. You're a righteous much fun do you think it is writing songs with this guy? So, this whole project started with one of the songs we're going to do later, but I had a very dear friend named Linda who died of MS a year ago, and she was the most amazing person. She could find joy in just about anything, and this song is a song that I wrote with Doug Scarrow, a really fine Saskatoon musician, yes. And it's all about the weird and wonderful ways that people try to find joy in their life when pretty much staring right in their faces. So this song's called Joy.
Everyone
this one. I was wondering what was coming up next. Okay, Linda's partner, somebody said last night, yes, Linda's partner was born grumpy. He was a grumpy old fart. And then he met this really wonderful woman. And he turned into a big mush ball. Really, literally, before our eyes. It's like, what happened to Ron? And then another part of the story is that I went on a mule ride up a mountain in the Dominican Republic to a village, a farm, and it was terrifying. And I don't know if you've ever been on a mule. Yeah, especially on a mountain with like with a cliff. You know, I'm a Saskatchewan girl. It looks like a really far trip down there. And this thing did not want me on its back at all. But I watched it. My daughter was in front of me on another mule, and I watched these mules. And they had the most graceful way of placing their feet so carefully and keeping us safe and cradling us. And I think a lot of us have that edge and a little bit of softness inside. And this song is called Bella. You saw the mule, you tried to shake me, tried to get your way. The owner laughs and rubs your ass just to bring you around. Ears lie flat, teeth are bared. Seems like you might win. This mountain path seems risky as we start our line. From the way you look, you've been around, gotta cross so hard. It would take a pounding heart just to break it down. Scared to show me what you've hidden in your brother. No, calculate the risk as your hand holds mine. No one knows what I have seen. I rest just like a ballerina. Sneaks back all the time. It could fill a heart with bitterness and pain. I'll hold the prism to the lights and let the colors in. Find our balance to the
much, everyone. Sorry to these folks who have to sit so close to the rear end of whatever this motion is here today. We have one more tune for you this set, but before that, I want to invite up a representative from the Ferry Hospice Society to speak a little bit about their organization, in case you weren't aware of them already, and also to tell you what's going on downstairs during the break. So he'll come out and speak, and then we'll play one more tune, and then the Divas of Caswell proper will begin. So anyway, Doug Borman from the Ferry Hospice Society. Please welcome.
Thank you very much, Brad, and I hope I don't have my back too much back there. Good evening to all of you. Thank you all so very much for coming tonight, and again, the sold-out crowd last night. It was incredible. I'm Doug Borman. I am chair of the board of Prairie Hospice Society, the charity that this concert is benefiting. A little later, I have a story to tell you about Irene, somebody that was referred to us last fall. But I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Prairie Hospice Society and what we do. We provide compassionate friendship and non-medical support to people in Saskatoon who are near their end of life. We do this through a network of highly trained volunteers, and we like to believe that we're a person-centered organization. We sometimes lapse in board meetings to the top terminology of clients. But we serve terminally ill people in Saskatoon, their families, and their caregivers. Our volunteers go through a long training program. It's about 25 or 30 hours, and we do ongoing training with them every month. And our volunteers are matched very carefully, one-to-one, with the person that has been referred to us. And we try to match them with like interests, gardening, cooking, outdoor activities, because the volunteer is with them throughout their journey until the end of their life. The same constant volunteer. We do everything we can to try to help the people we serve, and we try to help them shift their focus from waiting to die to living well until they die. Saskatoon has no residential hospice. We are told that we're the largest community in the country without a residential hospice. And it's for people like Irene, who I will tell you about, that we were formed less than 5 years ago. We began what we call our Hospice Without Walls program, and we started with 22 volunteers that were trained in this room, in the refinery, 5 years ago, to become compassionate friends and supporters of people who are terminally ill. We now, in less than 5 years, have over 100 trained volunteers. And there's another group of 21 in the basement of Emmanuel Anglican right next door who graduate tomorrow. And that is terrific for us. So since January 2013, when we started accepting referrals, we've had over 320 referrals of terminally ill people to us for service. And they've ranged in age from 7 years old to 109 years old. I have to amend my notes because last week we had an 18-month-old referred to us. Child of a new Canadian family from South America, and we're taking them on this week. We also started a second program called Hospice Now, which we intend to address the emergent needs of terminally ill individuals, whether we are serving them or not. That tends to be cases that are transportation cases. People need transportation to and from appointments, but they include other examples. We had in April of 2 years ago an 11-year-old girl with terminal cancer who was referred to us in April, and her parents couldn't get her to and from school. They had other kids. She was too debilitated from her cancer to take the bus, and so they came to us to see if we could set up rides to and from school. Within 6 hours of contacting our volunteers, we had a full slate, and that little girl continued through school to the end of June. While the people we help are all ages, all genders, multicultural, the most common person that we serve is a mid-70s widowed or single woman in Saskatoon, a member of the caregivers of Saskatoon. And perhaps most startling, between 10 and 20 people at any one time that we are serving have no one else in the city, no family or no friends that they can rely on to help them through this journey. And that 10 or 20 individuals is about a third of what we serve. At any one time, we have between 45 and 60 people who are serving. So this brings me to Irene. She was referred to us last fall. She, mid-70s, widow, terminal cancer. And she told our volunteer coordinators that all she wanted her volunteer to do was to come in and help her get her house in order. So Tammy showed up in the first week, the first 2 visits she did in the first week, that's what Tammy did. She helped Irene get her house in order. But I don't know if you remember last November, it wasn't like this November. It was a beautiful month, gorgeous month. And so the next week when Tammy showed up at Irene's house, she said, you know, it's a beautiful day, let's go for a walk by the river. And they went for a walk by the river. 2 days later when Tammy showed up, Irene had her coat on, she had her boots on, she said, let's go. And they then spent most of November, December walking by the river. And Irene started thinking, she said to Tammy in January, you know, it's too cold to go for walks, what I'd like to do is go with you to all my favorite places for lunch. And that's what they did through April and May. And Irene had then exhausted all the places she had been, and she said to Tammy, now I want you to take me to lunch to places I've never been to. And I don't know if you've been there, but the Fire Stick Cafe out at Silver Gardens was the first place they went to. Irene died in September, but Tammy helped her live well until she died. So we do not charge for our services. We receive no government program funding. We are not part of the health region, and we have no sustainable funding. We depend entirely upon the generosity of individuals, organizations, and foundations in Saskatoon. We are a charitable organization with a CRA number, and we do issue tax receipts. So while our expenses relate to 3 part-time staff, training and supporting our volunteers, and running the office of a small charity, you could say that $240 supports one client, one of the people we serve, each month. So for every 8 of you at a table or in a row tonight, you have supported one of our persons for the month of November. Thank you very, very much. This brings me to tonight. It's not our usual practice to have a donation table at fundraising events. But the Divas, Wilma particularly, and Brett encourage us to do so. So at the break, when you go downstairs, we'll have a donation table down there. There is also a silent art auction. There is also an art exhibit going on downstairs, which isn't in supporting Prairie Hospice, but we have one beautiful wood piece by a local wood artist, Jamie Russell, silent auction, which I will come up at the end of the intermission and announce who the winning bidder is. And at the end of the concert, you can come on downstairs and collect that item. So we are holding that, we have that donations table. If you have not committed all of your planned givings to charity for 2017, I encourage you to consider Prairie Hospice Society to help us people live well until they die. I'd like to just close up with some thanks. Particularly, firstly, I'd like to thank Emmanuel Anglican Church and the Refinery. We have done all our training for 5 years here. Every year we have a donor appreciation event downstairs. Every year we have a volunteer appreciation event downstairs. They have never charged us anything for the use of this facility. It is just an incredible friendship we've built up with them. And the Refinery itself is a fabulous venue for this concert. I'm told by the artist, the sound system is just great. I like the intimacy of this place. So thank you very much, Emmanuel. I'd also like to thank Penny Stalker and Ken Coutu, who in September held a garden party in support of this concert to help raise funds to cover the costs. I'm not going to embarrass them by pointing out that they're in the corner up there. But they raised more funds at that garden party than we need to cover all the expenses tonight, which means every single dollar of your tickets comes directly to us tonight. And finally, thanks so very much for the 4 divas, Wilma Gronin, Jen Lane, Jillian Snyder, Eileen Laverty, and of course Brett Ballin and his band. This was their idea. They came to us. They gave a fabulous sold-out concert tonight and another great one, last night, excuse me, and another great one tonight. Thank you all very much.
So the last song for this set is what started Brett and I going. I had these lyrics, and they're about my friend Linda, and I just want to tell you a little bit about the background of these lyrics. Like I said, Linda was a really joyful person, and she could find the silver lining all the time. She was a huge inspiration, which she hated. She said, I don't want to be an inspiration, I just want to live my life. But anyway, she was an inspiration to me. Ron used to come into town and buy groceries and stuff, and they live out near Pike Lake, and she lived out there, and he'd come into town and leave her, and for about 3 or 4 hours, and she was in a wheelchair, and pretty immobilized at the time of this particular incident, where she went out into the garden immediately after he left, and got stuck in the garden in her wheelchair in May, and was out there for 4 hours. Yeah, my reaction, exactly. Oh God, what did you do? That must have been awful. Oh. And she looks at me and she said, no, I got really zen with the beans. That's what she was like. And then she said, look, have you ever seen a bean grow? It's incredible, because in May, they grow really fast. So that was part of the inspiration behind this song. And then at the end of her life, it wasn't good. She was in a lot of pain, and they were trying to get the pain meds worked out and stuff. And at one point I had said to her, it's okay, we're all okay, you can go. And she looked at me kind of all cockeyed, and she said, but sometimes the sky is so blue. Yeah. And at the very, very end, that's what she was asking for, was the blue sky. And so that, this song is called Zen with the Beans.
Promised land. But I won't stay still. Never felt like the blues was a cup I could fill. I spent my time sitting out in the sun and getting zen with the breeze. Have you ever seen a bean grow? I have seen a bean grow. Tender tendrils wrapped around a wire.
for yourself.